Good morning, it's Tuesday 19th of April. I'm Tom Elliott and this is my market report. I've had a few weeks off, so apologies to those of you who have missed these particular videos. Well, the Dow Jones Index got hit pretty hard last night. US shares were down over 1%. In fact, they were down almost 2% at one stage. They closed down 1.1. The reason was pretty simple. The international ratings agency, S&P, or Standard & Poor's, decided to put the US government effectively on credit watch. Now what this means is that the risk of the US government not being able to repay its debts is now heightened in S&P's view. It's not a formal downgrade as yet, but it does give an indication as to the way in which S&P is going. Probably no surprise, I've been in the States for the past 2.5 weeks, and several issues there. The ongoing budget deficit is massive, it's in the trillions, and that's annually. The level of government debt to GDP is also massive, and that's still growing. And there's been this huge impasse between the two sides of politics, the Republicans, headed by the conservative movement, the Tea Party, and the Democrats, from which, of course, President Obama comes. They cannot seem to agree on essential taxing and spending policies, that is, fiscal policies, for the US going forward. An agreement has been reached, but only for the short term, for the next few months. And I guess while this disagreement is in place, well, that's the reason that ratings agencies aren't too keen on US government debt. You know, the local share market down about 1.3% as of midday this morning. Gold prices have hit a record high. They're up $7 at US $1,493 per ounce. That is a record ever since gold has been measured in US dollars, so more than 200 years now. The reason again is simple. If we can't trust the US dollar, and maybe we can't, then internationally people are looking to gold, although some analysts suggest that over the next year or so, if the US continues its economically destructive policies, you might see the Chinese yuan starting to play a greater role on the world stage, at least when it comes to currencies. The oil price fell $2.50 US a barrel overnight. It's currently 107. Of course, it's at an elevated level because of the ongoing unrest in the Middle East. In the 2.5 weeks that I've been away, very, very little has been achieved by the Western power intervention in Libya. You've got the ongoing conflict there, you've got other unrest across many Middle Eastern states, and as we know, whenever this happens, the oil price goes up and stays up. Resource stocks are weaker. BHP, Rio, Fortescue, all down in trade today. There are some concerns that Chinese growth actually can't be taken for granted in the medium term, that a lot of what is happening in China is merely inflationary, and that real demand could actually drop off, especially, of course, if the US economy fails to improve. Leighton Holdings is being sold off again today. It got smashed last week after unveiling a very large profit downgrade. It's also had to raise $750 million in new capital. Some say the new CEO of the company, who took over from recently departed Wal King, is simply clearing the decks. It's a time-honoured tradition whenever a new CEO comes in to have a whole series of write-downs, raise new money, and blame the whole process on his predecessor. In this sense, running a big company is not very different from politics, where new governments, such as the state Liberal government we have in Victoria, likes to blame everything for a period of time on its immediate predecessor. In the world of demergers, this is where companies decide to split up their operations and perhaps separately float them or sell one or other part. We've got two big ones coming up this month. The shareholders of both Fosters and Tabcorp will be asked to vote on the separation of their respective businesses. I think both votes will go through, and I think the good news for shareholders is that the parts of both companies will now become far more attractive as takeover targets. In Foster's case, we've got the beer and wine division separating, and I think beer could well receive a takeover offer from the likes of SAB Miller in the short to medium term. And in Tabcorp's case, you've got the wagering, which is essentially the betting businesses, and the gaming or casino businesses being separated. And it wouldn't surprise me if Crown, which obviously owns Crown Casino in Melbourne, might have a crack at the casino businesses in an effort to get bigger. Finally, the A dollar, a little bit weaker overnight. It's just under $1.05 US. Again, as someone who's been on holiday in the States recently, it has never been cheaper to travel to America and to buy things there. I still think you should make the most of it while you can.